quite a few comments on my last video that there's an easier way to do change of units. So I thought we would discuss that, but then also go through the same sort of principle again and why they're actually the same thing. If we were to convert 12.5 meters per second to kilometers per hour, or 45 kilometers per hour to meters per second. If you can remember this conversion, then it's actually quite easy to do this directly. And the conversion rate is that 1 meter per second is exactly the same as 3.6 kilometers per hour. And if you can remember that, then it's quite easy to do this conversion rate. So if we have 12.5 meters per second, and we wonder how many kilometers per hour that will be. We take our 12.5 meters per second, and because we know that 1 meter per second is 3.6 kilometers per hour, we take our 12.5 and we multiply it by the conversion, which is 3.6 kilometers per hour. And this gives us our answer directly. So if we look here, 12.5 multiplied by 3.6. Oh, sorry, I'm trying to write full stops here instead. 12.5 multiplied by 3.6 equals 45 kilometers per hour. So if you can remember that conversion rate, that 1 meter per second is the same as 3.6 kilometers per hour, or another way I've seen it is also 36 divided by 10 kilometers per hour. So you don't actually have to have the decimal point involved. 36 divided by 10 is the same as 3.6. You can do this conversion directly. Well then, what should 45 kilometers per hour be? 45 kilometers per hour. And we wonder how much that should be in meters per second. If we know the conversion rate, to go from meters per second to kilometers per hour, we had to multiply. So if we're going to go from kilometers per hour to meters per second, we must divide by the conversion factor. So we would divide by 3.6 meters per second. So we would get 45 divided by 3.6. And that would give us back to 12.5 meters per second, which of course is what we would expect, because if 12.5 meters per second is 45 kilometers per hour, then 45 kilometers per hour will be converted to 12.5 meters per second. But a lot of people get confused with this, and that's why I actually showed you the other method. So let's try both of these conversions with the method that I showed you on the last video, because it's good to feel confident about how to do this, and then we'll move on to a conversion of kilometers per hour to miles per hour using first principles. So 12.5 meters per second, that's the same as 12.5 meters per second. We don't want meters here, we actually want kilometers. So how can I get rid of the meter here? Well, if I divide by meter and at the same time multiply by kilometer, I'll be able to get rid of meter, because meter divided by meter is 1. Okay, how can we say that we're multiplying and dividing by the same thing? We know that 1 kilometer is the same as 1,000 meters. So we can multiply by 1 kilometer and divide by 1,000 meters, and we've actually able to cancel. Meter divided by meter is 1, and the unit that we have left is the one that we want, that's kilometer. So let's do the same thing with seconds then. If I'm going to get rid of seconds down here in the denominator, I have to multiply by seconds, and I want to replace that second with hours. How can we do that then? Well, we know that 1 hour is the same as 3,600 seconds. So I'm multiplying with 1 hour and at the same time dividing by 1 hour, because 3,600 seconds is the same as 1 hour. What happens then? Now my seconds are divided with seconds over here, And the unit that I've got left is kilometre per hour. I'll be multiplying all of this by 1, but that won't change my answer, so I can remove that 1. And I'll be dividing all of this also by 1 hour, but that won't change my answer to divide by 1, so I can cancel that too. So what I get left is 12.5 multiplied by 3,600 divided by 1,000, and my new units are kilometres per hour. 3,600 divided by 1,000 is the same as 36 times 100 divided by 10 times 100. 3,600 is the same as 36 times 100 divided by 10 by 100. 100 divided by 100 is 1. So what I get left here is 12.5 times by 36 all divided by 10 kilometres per hour. Notice that 36 divided by 10 is the same as multiplying by 3.6. So if we were going to work that out, we would have 12.5 times 36 divided by 10, which would give us 45 kilometres per hour. I've been trying to do the real decimal point instead of this Swedish comma here. It's difficult for me when I've been practicing working so many years in Sweden to use a comma instead of a decimal point, so I have to excuse that. Okay, well, let's go from first principles now back from 45 kilometers per hour using the same idea and working what that would be in meters per second. Okay, we start with 45. The unit that we've got is kilometers per hour. We'd like to get rid of the kilometre up here and change it with metre. So if we divide by kilometre down here and at the same time multiply with metre, we'll be able to get rid of this kilometre. The easiest way to do that is to remember that 1 kilometre is the same as 1,000 metres. So kilometre divided by kilometre goes. I'm only dividing by 1, so I can ignore that 1 as well. It won't change my answer. Now we want to get rid of this hour and convert it into seconds. If we multiply by hour, then hour divided by hour will be 1. 1 hour is the same as 3,600 seconds. So hour divided by hour is 1. Multiplying by 1 won't change our answer, so we can ignore that. And then we get that the final answer is 45 multiplied by 1,000 divided by 3,600. 1,000 divided by 3,600, if we think of that as being 10 times 100 divided by 36 times 100, 100 divided by 100 is 1. So we can simplify that expression to 45 multiplied by 10 divided by 36. And our new units are meters per second, which is what we wanted. So we get 45 multiplied by 10 divided by 36. We get 45 multiplied by 10 divided by 36 equals 12.5 meters per second. So using this method of converting all the units step by step will allow you to have a very good method to be able to convert any unit to any other unit. And we'll do a new video to convert kilometers per hour to miles per hour and see what happens then. Okay, good luck.